Welcome to the Night Vision Podcast. As you look out into the darkness, you may believe that all you see is what was there in the morning. But I assure you, when you look through night vision, you will see something completely different. And you may actually get sued for multiple reasons. We're not going to get into that. Matthew, this is my co-host, Matthew. This is my other co-host, Steve, sorry. And I am Nate, your central host. Sometimes I will have other guests with me. But tonight we have Matthew and Steve, and we are here to talk about the Ammons family haunting. Now, I don't know the proper way to pronounce this name, so I'm going to say Ammons, might be Ammons. I have no idea. But the reason I thought this would be the perfect episode to start the Night Vision podcast, the perfect subject, is because this particular haunting was witnessed by multiple individuals, medical staff, and police officers. And I think it's something that is definitely worth talking about. Steve, have you heard of this haunting?
Ammons family? I haven't.
Okay,
But
good.
I
Good.
feel like just the fact that it's been witnessed by medical staff and police um, already kind of lends some credibility to it.
It's we'll get into the details and I'll explain everything, and perhaps you'll have some pushback, but that is the case. Matthew, have you ever heard of this case?
I haven't, and I would kind of assume that with so many witnesses, it would, if it were to be credible, it would be much, much more well known. I certainly feel like I would have heard about it.
Matthew is going to be the skeptic.
I think
for the podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been pigeonholed at. Look, I'm just here to have a good time. I'm just here to hear about goofy stories. I'm a fun guy, but I take everything a great big grain of salt.
Latoya Ammons was a woman not dissimilar to the thousands of other single mothers living across the United States. The life of a single mother can be a difficult one. Still, most mothers, single or otherwise, won't have to suffer the kind of nightmare that Latoya says she and her 3 children experienced in Gary, Indiana, in a little house on Carolina Street. Now, her 3 children have actually never been named. That's one thing that's interesting, is that she has very much not want, according to her, she doesn't want anyone to know their names, which would make sense if she was being genuine and cared about her kids. But they are 7, 9, and 12 years of age. And living in Gary, Indiana would have been dangerous even if they weren't dealing with ghosts, because at one point it was declared the murder capital of the USA, of UFA, sorry, the United States of America, with a homicide rate that at its peak was almost 9 times that of the average. So
congratulations to Baltimore for taking that record.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's when I heard that part of it, when I was researching and got to that part of it, I was like, well, they're going to be scared anyway. I mean, whatever's going on, they're going to be freaked out because someone is like very likely about to murder them. I mean, if you're going to get murdered, right, in Gary versus another town, it's just more likely it's going to happen in Gary, and like that's kind of crazy.
This is going to sound strange, but also definitely true, is that the most murders per city statistically has to be somewhere. So
what a great point, Matthew. And now
I remember why
and now I remember why we created an order in which you were going to speak third. Steve, please, what do you think about this?
Okay, so in order to kind of frame the concept of most murders in the US, like per capita, I need to know what time are we talking? Like what year are we talking about? Because like the most murders in 1500s is probably a fraction of
it was
like
the early 90s apparently.
Okay, so early 90s. Okay,
yeah.
So we're in like modern era. Okay, so it's up there. Okay.
Mhm.
Gary, Indiana. Man, I feel like every like thing that I've read about Gary, Indiana, outside of, some like random, inventors inventing like kettle corn or something there, it's been like really super boring stories. So, like, good for Gary, Indiana for getting on the map
Yeah.
for a short time.
I wouldn't constitute as most
Yes.
murders
Yes.
putting you on the
Congratulations to
map.
Gary, Indiana.
you're
I,
you're
I, I'm
on
actually
you're on the map. I mean, it's not maybe something, but you're in the headlines there. You're on the numbers.
well, now
They're
that
notable.
maybe their murder rate has declined. I'm excited to go there and find out more about their annual kettle corn festivals if they have them. That sounds like a
Exactly.
delightful treat.
No, that's a reason to check out Gary, Indiana. But what happened was Latoya and her children, they were poor single mother family. They didn't have a lot of money. So they just basically could take what they could get. And they found a place at 3860 Carolina Street. And in November of 2011, they moved in. And at first things were pretty good. For it being the murder capital of America. But the Ammons family was starting to settle in nicely, but almost as soon as they moved in, something strange started happening. As November turned to December, the front porch of the Ammons' home began to swarm with black flies. Now, not just flies, black flies. According to Wikipedia, black flies are usually small, black or gray, with short legs and antenna. They feed mainly on nectar for flight energy, and the females of the species also gain nourishment for egg production by feeding on the blood of birds or mammals, including humans. All right. Keep in mind, this is at winter, a time when black flies tend to remain in egg or larva form in a dormant state. Black flies usually become active in hotter weather, like the summer. So, Steve, what do you think about this?
Dude, that was the like on my notebook here that I'm taking notes with, like I wrote down December question mark and circled it because I'm like in Indiana by December, it's got to be freezing. And like, what are these flies doing out? I don't think I've seen
Right.
like swarms of flies in the winter. So that was going to be the first thing that I brought up. I was like, there's no way that you're going to get regular black flies during the winter. Um, and
Right.
that they're like specifically kind of centralized on the front porch. Now I'm like, all right, what is the front porch doing? So yeah, I mean that was the first thing that I
Matthew,
thought was freezing
what do you
cold weather. What are the flies doing here?
I don't know if I
Right.
have too much to add at that point. That definitely seems odd. I don't know much about black flies. I know that when it gets colder, I don't see too many flies. So it is an interesting detail. Um, I'm also I don't know, like it's also kind of weak on my radar of paranormal activity. Is like, oh, we got more bugs around, but
Right. No, no, and that's fair. And that's fair. This is don't worry, Matthew. Things are going to get more extreme than this. This is just the
I would
first
hope
thing. All
so.
right. So, um, flies were one thing, disgusting certainly, but there was conceivably some logical explanation. What came next was more unnerving. Latoya's mother, Rosa, began hearing strange noises coming from the house's basement, and soon after, Latoya heard them too. Specifically, they heard footsteps that seemed to move around the basement floor. Then they would start to hear the footsteps moving up the stairs to the door that leads into the kitchen. Finally, they started to hear the creak of the door opening and footsteps entering the kitchen. When they investigated, there was no one there. One night, Latoya woke in bed to see a shadowy figure through her doorway pacing around her living room. When she leapt out of bed to confront the intruder, she couldn't find anyone. She did, however, find wet boot prints.
I don't know, man. Like just the idea of someone being in the house, like just super like freaks me out. But what now? What were the like the methods that they used to verify that there that these there was no one there? outside of just hearing the boots,
Mhm.
hearing the footsteps, and then getting up and then going to check it out.
No, no, no. It wouldn't have been anything too complicated, I don't think. And they are not paranormal investigators,
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's the other thing.
so I don't
If I
expect
can
there was
kind of,
anything beyond that. Matthew, what do you think? Oh no, go on, go on.
I
Sorry,
don't.
well, I was just
please.
going to say, like, just and the other side of it, and I'm kind of siding, kind of on the skeptic side for this. Like, you've got three children in the house that, are, running around and fooling around. And like,
Right.
I don't know how convinced I am of like the wet footprints being like evidence of anything happening. Cause like kids are always just like wet and sticky. And, it could have just been the little kids running around, you know, just, dirty, wet, sticky kids. And so I don't
That's
know,
fair.
man.
That's
Just on
fair.
the skeptic side of it, it's
That's fair.
I'm
Matthew,
thinking,
you want to
what,
jump on that
this
bandwagon?
could just be wet, sticky kids.
I'm going to go ahead and give the family the benefit of the doubt that the mom or who's ever telling the story is keeping track of where their children are. Although, yeah, like it sounds like there's a lot of people in the house, and not everyone's keeping track of everyone's movement. But I think that in lieu of
No.
any kind of ghost, from what I hear, statistically speaking, it was probably a murderer. There was a murderer walking around in that basement making a bunch of ruckus, and heard people coming down the stairs, ran outside, tracked his muddy boots all over the goddamn floor. That's what this is. I mean,
And
I don't
hey,
know if you heard this. Around this time, Indianapolis crawling with the fuckers.
and hey, that's fair. Okay, that's fair, except they locked the door and it happened anyway. And then when they would check, the door would still be locked. So this kept happening, and they didn't, to their mind, they didn't see any evidence of a human breaking in from the lower. And that's a perfectly logical explanation, especially in Gary, Indiana. But they didn't find any evidence of that. So I want to make that clear. So
Especially in Gary, Indiana, the most
in
boring
March,
city in
I'll
the
go on.
US.
Well, I'm assuming these locks you speak of locked from the inside, right? Murder was already in the house,
there's
bro.
there's the twist.
Yeah, but how do you
Well,
get out without them at the front door? You have to lock the front door, right? Like, how do you do that?
Um,
There you go.
that is creepy. Oh, I didn't consider that.
Okay, yeah, so I got you. I got you there. There was no evidence. They didn't find any evidence of anything that the guy was there at all. So it was weird. It was weird. Next, though, in March, a relative of the Ammons died, and a wake was held at their house. Which to me is just like, why would you do it there? But whatever. Maybe they're the only ones who had a house. So I don't know. Suddenly, in the middle of the wake, Latoya screamed for her mother, Rosa, "Mama, Mama!" And when Rosa and several other family members ran into the children's room, they saw Latoya's 12-year-old daughter unconscious and floating above her bed, levitating above her bed. In Rosa's words, I thought, what's going on? What is this happening?
Okay. So if this seems like the first like instance of like firsthand eyewitness, event that is witnessed like of paranormal activity that can't be like like speculated that this could be sticky children or just flies out of season or whatever. If this really happened and there were multiple witnesses of it, this so far is, I think, the first piece of if we can believe what they're saying, the first piece of undeniable supernatural activity in the story thus far.
um,
This is the part that
I,
you think is like finally like undeniable.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like that there is, however, maybe even, stretched and like inconceivable it could be, like there is a like I feel like there's an explanation that we can attribute to every other instance. The flies, the wet boot prints, the sounds of like steps up and down the stairs and in the basement. I feel like if we really wanted to, we can kind of assign something, something like reasonable to every one of those instances. But the girl floating, witnessed by multiple family members, I think is the first in this instance, if we can call it like airtight evidence of like paranormal activity that we can't explain by normal means.
I completely concur with Steve, that if uh, what they're saying is true, then it's true, and everything is real, and nothing is false. But um, I think that it's much more likely that a girl would start defying the laws of physics. A mother would be starved for attention and be making up a bunch of lies. But I don't know. I'm keen to hear more. But like it's so interesting how we could have like kind of different reactions to. It's like when we get to the stage of when we get to a place where something is cannot be explained away in any sort of way, then I kind of have to like tune out and be like, okay, well, fine, everything from now on is bullshit. But like I said, I'm here to have a fun time. Let's
Right. I mean, I guess what you're
keep the
saying
train
is that the
rolling.
family members could be lying. They could all be lying about this, and yeah, that's perfectly fair. Especially if you're a racist. But we'll go on. We'll move on.
But
But at
but
this
what
point,
would they have to gain by
was
lying though?
so what?
What could they possibly have to gain from lying? So they got to be telling the truth though. So I guess.
I think that just
Well,
in
they
the
haven't got. I
interest
don't think they got anything out. Yeah, you changed your mood.
Yeah, I think that in the interest of this story, at least for
Yeah.
me, I'm going to presuppose that everyone is telling the truth and that they don't have anything to gain. So I just for the sake of objectivity, I'm going to say that everyone that you're telling us that any of their eyewitness events is completely truthful, um, thus far.
As you should.
And that's how I feel about a lot of it. But the thing is, there's more, to it. So at this point, there was something seriously wrong going on, clearly. So Latoya told her daughter, "We need help. We need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with it." And so the Ammons began contacting churches located in Gary looking for spiritual assistance. And they were told what people are always told in these situations: go away. We made that up. That's just a movie. We don't do that. Now, that's my wording of it. But every single time one of these things happens, they go to one of these churches. Most of the churches are going to tell you, you have mental problems, go away. We don't want to deal with this. No, we don't have a way to do this. We don't know anything about this. And funnily enough, this is actually in the Exorcist movie too. So it kind of makes sense. It's accurate, I suppose. But eventually they did find a church whose officials would agree to go look at their house. And what was their diagnosis, you may ask? Well, they said, you got some dark spirits in your house. You should get some help. Which they were like, what? They recommended that the Ammons clean their home with bleach and ammonia. Which, for those of you who don't know, it is that don't do that. Don't do that, because if you do that, then you get a toxic chloramine gas, which is highly irritable to the human body and can be fatal. So I mean bleach on its own, ammonia on its own, fine. You do them at the same time, if they mix, not a good thing. And they also said to use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. So Latoya did the thing with the oil. I have no idea if she did the ammonia and bleach thing. That's not in the article, and I hope to God she did not. But in any case, she also put oil on her children's feet and hands, which is a process in religious tradition is known as anointing. So as a way to try to protect them. And finally, Latoya contacted some psychics that came and examined the house. And what they said was, your house is infested with over 200 demons. Their solution: move to a house that isn't haunted.
I love that solution. It's like, you're outside of your like burning house talking to the fire chief, and he's like, you should move to a house that isn't on fire. I
Well,
do.
to be fair, it's got over 200 demons. That's pretty unusual.
Well, and that's actually something that I kind of wanted to ask. Like, is that something if you had like one of these churches that had someone that could cleanse the house or exorcise the house or whatever, could you do it? Does it have do you have to like expunge all 200 demons, or can you do like 5 or 6 a week, and then like by the end of the year in 6 or 8 months, maybe you've cleared out all 200? Or does it,
Yeah.
can you do it, can you piecemeal it together? Can you do 5 or 10 a week, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You
suddenly
No, I
you're
love
like
it. That's a
your
great
house is still
question.
haunted, it's still haunted, but it's tapering off, it's a
Well,
little less haunted week by week.
Are these demons incurring
so the problem,
interest? Can you pay off the like monthly minimum demons, and then
so
like when you get some money
the
coming in,
problem
can
that
you could pay it
Latoya,
off more and more?
the problem the family had is that, according to these sidekicks, the home was probably some kind of portal. They didn't use that word, but the way that they were talking about it, it's like, you can clean if you have a leak, right? You can clean up the water, but there's going to be more water there the next day. So I think that was kind of the implication that was given to the Ammons, is that like, you need to plug this leak. And so they were still at a loss kind of what to do. Again, they told them to leave. They just said just leave, which I get you guys being like, well, that's great, but on one level, okay, how many homes are going to have over 200 demons in them? The problem is the Ammons were poor. They didn't have the money to just move. And having just moved myself, I can tell you it's extremely expensive, and it is a huge, huge problem in every single way. And so I believe her. I believe them when they say, like, well, we couldn't just move. I believe that. According to the family, they would sometimes go to hotel rooms for the night, which itself was too expensive, and they shouldn't be doing it. But they would do it sometimes just because it was so bad. It was the only way they were even going to get any kind of rest.
If this home
Go ahead.
had supposedly 200 demons and counting, they could have easily sold the property to Den Glanzig for no less than $1 million in the 90s. That's moving money for
Yeah, I was
sure.
going to say, do you mean
Uh, also,
is
I
it
want
Danzig?
to go
Is
back.
it the guy's name Danzig?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Glenn
Glenn
Danzig.
Danzig, motherfucker.
Yeah,
So, he would have bought it. No, but
yeah.
in all seriousness, I want to go back to this church that came and told them to put bleach around everywhere. I have a feeling, and again, this is the one church that said yes to an
Bleach
investigation.
and
Like
ammonia.
they all said
Yeah.
no, but what one church came in and said,
Yes.
yeah, let's put some bleach on the wall. I don't think they saw demons. I think they saw black mold. I think they they were just like, yeah, like no wonder you're fucking seeing shit. You
That's
guys are all sick
possible.
as fuck.
That's possible. Black mold causes hallucinations sometimes. So like, maybe that was what they really thought was happening. But my personal opinion is that these people were just stupid and loopy. So they were like, they were open to the idea of ghosts because they were kind of weird. There's that, but I think they were also just dumb and they didn't realize. I mean, there's an episode of isn't there an episode of King of the Hill where Peggy does that?
Peggy does what?
She moves to Gary, Indiana.
Matthew?
He gets murdered.
No,
I have
there's
to.
like an episode of King of the Hill where Peggy, she has like an advice column and she tells people to mix ammonia and bleach, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or it's two other chemicals, right? And that are going to create some kind of gas, mustard gas or something. And Hank's like, no, Peggy, you have to run and like stop the newspaper. So it's a thing people could do, like.
Do you think the church was fucking with them? I'm going to give the church the benefit of the doubt and said that like they told them
No,
to
I
do
don't.
it at different
Like I said,
times.
not unless they're racist.
I learned in Boy Scouts not to mix bleach and ammonia. So, but hey, if
They
it's
didn't.
deadly,
I want to say again, they didn't actually say to mix them, but
yeah.
they didn't actually say to mix them, but they said to use both. And if you use both, they're probably going to mix. So, yeah.
Mhm. The listener to this podcast did learn something.
Like they contacted multiple churches, you said, and I'm wondering if there's like the first question that came to my mind is like, what denomination of Christianity is like on board with like exorcisms, and which denomination is gonna just go, no, we don't do that, that's all movie stuff. And I'm sure that there's like a some list
Yeah.
out there
I
that
mean,
that's
I
got
think,
like within their doctrines, it's like, yeah, we do exorcisms or we don't, we deliver, kind of stuff.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are, because the thing is, I think most people would assume it's Catholics. But I
Yeah, for
know for a
sure.
fact that if you a bunch of those people won't do it because they're not connected to that. They haven't been trained how to do that, and it is considered a really old world way to handle things. And so you'd have to find somebody pretty orthodox, pretty old world to even know, probably even how to do an exorcism. And so uh, I don't think it's crazy. It makes sense that when you have those situations, to find someone who can like get rid of demons out of your home, it's going to be hard to do. It's not an easy thing to do. And then the other thing people are probably not thinking about too is that they could get sued if something goes wrong while they're doing that. Like like they could be held responsible for and they're probably think about that more than anything. So,
Yep.
it is what it is. But frankly, I know it's awful. They don't have the money, but the moving option does sound like the most logical option to me because I mean, just at this point in the story, I don't want to go any forward, but just at this point in the story, it's like I don't see how you get rid of 200 demons. I don't see how you do that. It doesn't make any sense. One demon is enough for me to move. So I don't know. I don't know. But we'll move forward. So the psychics did have a second piece of advice, thank God. And besides moving, they said, if you're not going to move, make an altar in the basement. So Latoya covered an end table with a white sheet and then placed a white candle and a statue of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus on it. And she read from Psalm 21, which is, I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers. It's basically just like he's going to mess you up. Don't mess with me. I have God. Is basically the idea. It's a good verse if you want something like that. And she said that she and another person donned white t-shirts and wound white scarves around their hands, and they also burned sage and sulfur in the house, starting upstairs and moving down, eventually reaching the basement. The house was eventually so thick with smoke it was hard for them to breathe. Okay, so once again, the solution can be a problem too. You got to be careful, okay? Mixing bleach and ammonia and filling your house with smoke. For those of you at home, probably don't do that. Probably don't do that if you have this problem. She even drew a cross. She even drew a cross with the smoke, which is actually an art form known as fumage. According to tate.org.uk, the technique was invented by the Austrian surrealist artist Wolfgang Palin in the late 1930s and results in a hazy, cloudy image suggestive of dreams and apparitions. So that's kind of interesting that Latoya even knew how to do that. This ritual seemed to work. There were no noises, no levitations, nothing for 3 days. And then the children all started to act like they were possessed. So the youngest kid locked himself in the closet and started talking to himself and was like, had an evil smile on his face. And then the older kid was describing, I know, just an evil smile, but that's how it's described. The older kid was describing to people how it felt to be killed. He was like, you get hit with the bus, and you can feel the tire moving up your butt. Like it's weird stories he would tell people about. This is what it's like to be killed. And the daughter was feeling something pushing her down in her bed and choking her. That wasn't there. Just some kind of invisible force was doing, according to the daughter. So all these things were happening to the kids. And so because all these things were happening to the kids, she said, all right, fine. And she did what frankly, she should have done immediately. And I don't quite understand why she didn't. She took them to a mental health professional And I'm gonna read directly from the Indianapolis Star article that I get most of this from. And he said, the guy in the article says, so the doctor Oniyuku told the Star it was bizarre. 20 years and I've never heard anything like that in my life. I was scared myself when I walked in the room. He said he would not speak in more detail unless the Ammons had psychiatric clearance for the waiver of confidentiality he had signed. In his medical notes about the visit, Oniyuku wrote delusions of ghost in home and hallucinations. He also wrote history of ghost at home and delusional. So he really wanted to hammer it home that he felt that the family was delusional in some way. What the Ammons family say happened next also was detailed in a Department of Child Services report. So this is all detailed in a report. The son, Campbell's son, was holding I'm sorry. First he started cursing at the staff in demonic voices, which is not a big deal. It's whatever. But then suddenly one of the boys, the youngest one, was the medical staff say this. I want to make this clear. Medical staff said the youngest boy was lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him. And this is in a Department of Child Services report. So that's what it says in this article. The medical staff say they saw the boy fly up into the air and into the wall. The boy abruptly passed out, and Rosa, the grandmother, cradled one of the boys in her arms. Someone from the doctor's office called 911, and then, according to Oniyuku, the doctor, 7 or 8 police officers and multiple ambulances showed up. Everybody was ... They couldn't figure out exactly what was happening, he says. Police and emergency personnel took the boys to Methodist Hospital campus in Geary. Latoya said that hospital personnel laughed at her desire to anoint her sons with oil, which, I mean, it's rude, but honestly, I totally get that. And then the boys woke up in the hospital and started acting irrationally and thrashing around, that sort of thing. And then probably what is the most interesting part of the story, while in the presence of medical staff, one of the boys was holding one of their hands and started to walk backwards and walked up the wall. And according to everyone in the room, was standing on, like, basically on the ceiling.
Oh, what a feeling.
And so I don't know. I mean, there's so much. I know I've been talking for so long, guys. You know, what do you think of all the crazy stuff that I just said?
Well, I gotta say,
Okay.
it actually is very interesting to me that staff, like staff are on record as of seeing some frankly impossible things. So that is quite perplexing, isn't it? I, I'll say my first thought when I hear that a staff's report includes a boy being thrown up against a wall, but no one was touching him. My first thought goes to they got sick of that little shit, and one of them threw him against the wall, but none of them wanted to snitch.
And the rest of the staff were like, no, he was lifted into that wall.
I didn't touch him.
I guess they're right. It must be a ghost.
Yeah, I didn't touch it. I guess nobody touched him.
That's an interesting. Well, we didn't get there yet, but that's an interesting theory. But to quote from the article, according to Washington's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse that was there, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backward up a wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over the grandma, landing on his feet. He never let go of the grandma's hand in the process. I don't know. Steve, what do you think of that?
I think strong grandma.
I'm asking Steve. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that, like, is really kind of sticking out in my mind, because Like I've got in my sheet here that we're in to already like the 2010s. Like they moved into this house on Carolina Street in 2011. And all of this stuff has happened after that. And a lot of this stuff, some of the the kid being lifted and thrown into the wall, or walking up the wall and standing on the ceiling and stuff like that. This has all occurred in the waiting rooms of these hospitals, these like Methodist hospitals. And I mean by 2011, I mean you've got like security cameras and everything in every hospital waiting room and corridor and stuff. And my thought is, dude, okay, if this all definitely happened, then there's got to be some footage of it for sure, right? But I mean, because like I
I
said, I
mean,
mean, by
that stands to
2000
reason.
by 2011, I mean, we were all wired up. Everyone had by that time camera phones. We were a surveillance state. By then. And so
Right.
I don't know, dude. Like I am kind of like Matthew had mentioned, the idea that this little kid was lifted and thrown against the wall, and the only witnesses were the workers there in the in like the in that medical office or whatever. I feel like I don't know. That sounds to me a little bit like, oh man, like Brad was tired of this kid's shit and like kicked him against the wall, but we need to cover for him because we're short staffed. He was lifted and thrown against the
Yeah.
wall. It was
Yeah,
magic.
that's funny.
But then, yeah, and then again,
And what if the walking up the wall?
see, and that's another one, dude, because like it's like in the instance where they were at the wake and the kid was like hovering above the bed. Again, that was
Right.
at the time we were discussing, like really kind of the only unexplainable thing that we've encountered over this whole saga yet. But again, it was only family members at that wake, so they could have, kind of colluded with each other and gone, all right, this is the story, family, tell everyone. But now we've got these like third party, people that presumably don't have anything to gain, these like, receptionists and medical workers in this office that are now seeing this and kind of corroborating the story of the kid walking on the wall and the ceiling and stuff. And so now it's like, okay, so now it's not just the family corroborating the story to kind of like, do whatever. Now we've got these like seemingly objective third parties that are claiming to have seen it also, But then again, kind of like to
And
my
we and
my
we have some of their names.
Okay, yeah, yeah, perfect, dude. And I feel like you may not want to give your name to like the police or to the reporters if you're making shit up. I feel like you'd probably really only want to like add your name to your testimony if it's like really what you believed or saw.
Right.
So, but again, by then,
Right.
by 2011, I feel like, to my point earlier, by then, where's the security camera footage, because by then, everything was completely surveilled. But again, this is Gary, Indiana, the most boring city, on earth at the time. And so yeah, dude, I think
It's
that the third party, uh, objective medical workers kind of, claiming that this all went down, really it kind of lends a little bit of credibility to the story.
he went on about how boring Gary is, and we know that's true. It was a city so boring they started murdering each other for fun. Um, no, I
So,
wasn't even thinking of I wasn't even thinking about the year and the like, yeah, like where is the footage? Where is like, even if not security, like everybody was
no,
recording
and
each
that's fair.
other.
And and perhaps that explains why a short time later the police asked Latoya to take her children back to the hospital for another checkup. And when she got there, she realized that they were in fact taking her children from her and separating the family. And
Mhm.
according to them, they did it because, quote, all of the children were experiencing spiritual and emotional distress. Well, of course, they're in a fucking house with 200 demons, you idiots. I mean, I'm not saying that the cops are wrong. Maybe they're right, but I'm just saying that's that's not inconsistent with the story that Latoya is telling everybody. But they started to blame her for it.
Let me pose this situation to you now, because I'm just kind of like thinking, what if the kids were making it up and acting all this out in order to get away from their mother because she refused to do any cleaning except for using bleach and ammonia together?
That's a fair argument, and we'll get to that when we get to theories, which will be very soon.
Okay.
So, you know, all this happened. The kids were taken. Finally, Latoya found a Reverend Michael Maginot, and he had led like a Bible study, and she talked to him about it and convinced him basically to check out the house. And when he visited, he detailed further a paranormal phenomenon that he experienced along with them. So
He found like 9 demons max.
so the every time that he was walking around this one light, it started flickering, and when he would walk away, it would stop. When someone else walked up, that wouldn't happen, but when he walked up, that would happen. And he placed a crucifix against Latoya's head, and she started like having an epileptic fit. I mean, you could say that's just Latoya acting. If you don't believe everything that's happening, then that's fine. But the police, they started to believe the situation. Less than a week later, the two women were back on Carolina Street to let Washington, the DCS family case manager, check the condition of the home. Washington asked a Lake County police officer to come with her. The two officers, one each from Gary and Hammond police departments, so 2 different police departments, asked to join them out of professional curiosity, which is funny. Ammons refused to go inside, but Rosa, her mother, agreed to accompany the group. Ammons' kids were still in DCS custody. The main floor had 3 bedrooms, a living room, 1 bathroom, hardwood floors, and a small open-style kitchen. A door in the kitchen led to a basement with concrete floors. Directly under the stairs was a dirt floor. The concrete around it was jagged, as though it had been broken. The makeshift altar Ammons had created was still in place, along with rings of salt they had poured against the basement walls to dissuade the demons. Rosa told officers that demons seemed to emanate from beneath the stairs. Austin, the Gary police captain, was one of those officers. He told the Star he believed in ghosts and the supernatural, but said he didn't believe in demons. So, it's like, wow, ghosts and supernatural, but demons, come on. Demons, you gotta be stupid to think that's a real thing. During the interview with Rosa, yeah, I know, right? It's not that much of a stretch, I guess. One of the officers' audio recorders malfunctioned, according to Austin and Hammond police records. The power light flashed to indicate the batteries were dying, even though the officers had placed fresh batteries in the record earlier that day, or the recorder earlier that day. Another officer recorded audio, and when he played it back later, heard an unknown voice whisper, "Hey," according to Lake County police records. That's in the police records. That officer also took photos of the house. In one photo of the basement stairs, there was a cloudy white image in the upper right-hand corner. When an officer enlarged the photo, the cloud appeared to resemble a face. Lake County police records state. So that's all in the police records. The enlargement also revealed a second green image that police say looked like a female. The police say that, right? They offered up that interpretation. Austin said photos he snapped with his iPhone also seemed to have strange silhouettes in them. The radio in his police issue Ford malfunctioned on the way home. Later, Austin said the garage at his Gary home refused to open, even though the power was on everywhere else. Austin said the driver's seat in his personal 2005 Infiniti started moving backward and forward on its own. He said that he had the car checked at a dealership, and the mechanic told him the motor on the driver's seat was broken, which the mechanic said could have caused a distraction leading to an accident. Austin said he found himself starting to believe the claims. So basically, all this crap started happening to this officer as well. And finally, they had an exorcism, basically, where the priest attempted to exorcise the home, and there were police officers there with them. And they found this oil dripping from the blinds in one of the rooms, and they cleaned it off. They were like, I don't know what this is. And they came back, and it was dripping from it again. So they got everybody out of the house. They said, everybody out. They cleaned it up. They got out of the house. They came back in, and it was there again. So there was something weird going on. Now, I have basically, there's a lot more with this case, but I have reached the end of these are the third party individuals that witness things. And so, in my opinion, it's kind of at the end of what's most interesting about it. If you want to hear more about this case, you can look it up. I'm sure there's a million other podcasts that have talked about it. What I want to get to now are the theories. So, gentlemen, first theory. Latoya Ammons is delusional, and she has convinced her children to go along with this delusion. If you buy this theory, you have to explain how they did all that weird stuff, like climbing up the wall, things like that. But it basically explains everything else, right? Second theory, Latoya's telling the truth. There are demons in her house. There's a haunting going on, something like that. Third theory, the city of Gary, Indiana, is involved in a massive conspiracy to erase the Google searches that will find they were once the murder capital of America and replace them with Google searches about this haunting. You may laugh, but I offer it as a genuine theory. Gentlemen, which of the three theories do you believe in, or do you have an alternate theory? Steve, go with you first.
Oh man, there's so much that I wanted to address before like we get to like what my theory is. And I'll touch on them real briefly. I do love that the police chief, Chief Austin, made the distinction that he believes in ghosts but not demons.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
like
calling him.
one of my favorite pieces that you've just like conveyed to us. And it's like, and then at one point he's in there and he's like, okay, it's demons. I believe in them now. And I want to know what it was that was like, nah, this isn't ghost, you guys. This is demon stuff.
And his garage door wasn't working, and there was a problem with his car, and that was
the other
too.
thing. Like it, like all of his stuff started malfunctioning after he left the house. So it's like, did he take a demon with him? And that's now. So now,
well,
now the house has 199 demons, dude. They just need to get more visitors to come over.
It definitely feels like a haunted mansion type situation, like a hitchhiking demon. But what's really funny, like you're saying, is he went from not believing in demons. He went from 0 to 100 because he went from not believing in demons to being like, "There's a demon in my car. There's a demon in my garage."
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry. If you start at believing at ghosts, you're not starting at 0. You're starting at least 15.
Fair enough. He started at like 20 and he went to like 80. You know, he really zoomed up there.
Yeah,
like that was, but I agree. Like when I was looking this story up, that part I was like, well, like, this guy sounds like he's already kind of there. You know, but,
yeah, dude, just like it's like, all right, that's the ghost, absolutely fucking crazy, but demons, like, okay, that's a little too far-fetched for me, buddy. It's like that's where you draw the line. Okay,
he kind of sounds like, yeah, you know what, I don't really believe in ghosts. I just, you know, okay, ghosts are real, fine, but you know, I mean, okay, sure, they could possess people, but what is that? He sounds like he's like really slipping down that old slope.
But don't be silly, demons, come on.
All right, fine, I guess the demon's just a ghost that's mad, right?
But I think to answer your question, if I had to pick one of the three,
we can explore options. More if you have questions. I mean, I don't know how many answers I have, but
you know, I am really kind of leaning toward the first one, that Latoya is delusional and she's kind of coached her family to kind of play along into this. But what really kind of like severs that like conviction for that being the truth is, like I mentioned earlier, the fact that you've got witnesses that have given testimony, like third parties, you know, the workers in like the hospital and stuff that saw the kid walking on the waiting room, you know, ceiling, you know, with grandma. And so, oh man, like I would say that I think my vote is going to be that Latoya is delusional and that she's kind of coached her family to do so, but with reservation. It's I think is the most reasonable out of all of them, with those, kind of plot holes, in my mind. I will say though, I do really love the idea that this is a cover up by the city of Gary to mask the fact that they're like murder capital of the world for, for whatever, for 2011. I love that. And I love just the idea of like there being like a meeting with the mayor and his like PR team, and he's like, "What are we gonna do about this?" And like they're like hotshot PR person is like, "Listen, boss, I know this family, okay, that they're fucking crazy. And I think that we can, I think with a little help, we're gonna have to hire some hospital like waiting room staff to corroborate. But I think if we pay them off, we can get them to say that kid walked on the ceiling and frame this whole family like they're fucking insane. And that will be front page news. Goodbye, murder capital, Gary. Welcome, this batshit, family is in Gary.
It's like a scene from The Wire. The guy, the assistant's like, we do everything through back channels. Nothing leads back to you. Like they all talk about the way they're gonna do it. No, I mean, and that's possible.
Yeah.
But you know what?
That's my favorite option, but I think that the one that I'm going with
Yeah,
is Latoya's crazy. She coached her family with some plot holes. So
yeah,
with
no,
reservations, and
understand.
going option one.
So that's your vote, Matthew.
Yeah.
Which of the three theories do you think, or do you have another theory?
Well, speaking to theory 3, as fun as it is, I don't think so. I like swapping out murder capital of America for demon
Do you know want to
capital
know?
of America. That's
Do you want to know what
that's
it's
at
based on?
best a lot. That's at best a lateral move.
Well, can I say real
What's
quick?
it based
It's
on?
it's based on theories about Dubai. There are theories that the Dubai viral chocolate bar is intended to replace certain stories about Dubai that I'm not going to get into that have to do with poo. I'm not going to say nothing else, but you can Google that if you want to know what I'm talking about. They didn't want people finding the poo articles, and so they used that candy bar to cover it up, which is an ironic way to do it. That's the theory. And so
Don't talk
I'm just
about our poop. Do buy our chocolate.
yeah.
Um,
Which one do you?
so I'm not going to entertain theory 2 because that's not my mo. However, I want to put a twist on theory 1,
Okay.
which is is definitely sad and sexist and all sorts of things that we don't condone on this show. Okay, so looking at theory 1, once you confirmed that the children were taken from her, like that kind of threw so many things out the window for me, because I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually probably most likely an instance of child abuse. Like whether, not necessarily like intentional. I don't know these people. I don't want to like talk ill of people I don't know, and I don't know this case. But when children are taken away, and it sounds like the mother was unstable, and the kid, these are children. They're reacting um, to their environment, and it sounds like they were in a very unstable environment, and it probably should have been taken from the house. And also, we got to remember that this was a single mother home, and everyone's talking about how fucking weird this house is. Um, Single mother, 3 children. Who's maintaining the house? Like stuff stops working, and no one's there to fix it. Like things stop working, and that's when houses get weird.
The hall
That's when
light is flickering. It must be haunted.
like there is something to that. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to say like, oh, the mom couldn't fix the light bulb, but I'm just saying it's the unkept houses that we associate with being haunted, being creepy, and like I know we started this story in the '90s. It got to the fucking 2011. So it's definitely. Do you guys know what I'm saying? Someone step in here and save me before I get us canceled on our first episode.
Well,
I think
But
you.
yeah. Go ahead,
I
Steve.
think there's some. Yeah.
I think that you started off with the point that you were going to make, and then you kind of went down a few tangents, and then it kind of tapered off to where we don't remember exactly what direction you were
And
going.
that you started talking
Well,
about per capita or
Yeah,
something. It was
but you
really
were
weird.
so you would said, okay, so theory number two, that Latoya is telling the truth, is absolutely not gonna
well,
and then
I'm not on to 200 Demon House. That's not something I'm really convinced of so
Well,
far.
and that's
But
fine. You guys, neither of you guys have to be convinced, but I have to ask both of you, how do you explain the account of the child floating into the air and flying into the wall? Was that how did that work? If it was if the option is not, that's why I made up option 3. Because if you don't want to believe it's a ghost, how do you explain that bit? Matthew, how do
that
you explain that?
well, I can't explain it, and I don't have to. I
Oh.
like well, I wasn't there. I'm not the one that is saying this happened.
Oh, a
I
novel
don't.
approach.
I'm. I don't know. I look. I, I don't know why these people are saying that it happened. I just know that it didn't. Um,
Dude,
what?
look, if we're gonna do this show, that cannot be your argument every single time. Because that
And
no,
yet it
because
will be.
okay, how do you explain? The thing is, it's easy to explain why one person lies, 2 people lie, 3 people lie. But how do you explain all these different people involved that are all have to lie for this to make sense? Go ahead, explain that.
Well, so basically, what you've tasked me with doing is coming up with a motive for them to lie.
That's why I made up
Um,
option number 3.
sure. Where was this reported?
And the Indianapolis Star and multiple other major newspapers.
A bunch of crooks. All they're here to sell papers, and they're taking things, fucking
But it's also in police reports. It's
just little
also in
things.
DCS reports.
See, and that's why not 7 years later, everyone was calling for these police to be defunded because they're fucking it out of their gourds. These guys.
All right, all right.
I,
So your theory is incompetence.
no, like I said, like I think there was something going on in this household that is tragic. I think mental illness is a real thing, and I
Okay,
think
okay.
this family went through a lot. And they like if you are mentally ill, this is so much better than what I was saying before. If you're mentally ill, you're not taking care of your house.
Yeah,
Things get weird. It looks
things fall
creepy.
apart. Things fall apart in the
It
house. I understand. I understand
look,
that
look
idea.
when you go into an unkept house, it's easier to think to yourself like, oh, there's bad juju. This house has a bad energy. It has a bad vibe.
That's
Um,
fair. Doesn't
and
explain the kid
it's a
floating
lack
up
of.
into the air into the wall, but that's fine.
Yeah, every haunted house is always covered in cobwebs. So that is kind of to your point, Matthew.
That's
I,
fair.
I, I work. I work with kids, and I see kids do things like every day on a playground that I just cannot believe. Like
Yeah, kids are weird.
it's
Kids are weird. I get that. But what?
no, but I'm talking like even feats of athleticism is like, oh wow, I like you are stronger than I thought you were. Like
you've
you
seen
like
children flying?
I didn't say that, and if I ever do, I hope you have me locked up. Um,
Look, okay,
but
all right. So all right, understandable. So you're choosing option A, or the first option rather, which is there is a
no, but
there's abuse going
and
on, there's mental illness going on.
yes, and you're telling me I can't until I can come up with a motive for why these
No, no, no,
doctors.
no, no. You can choose that. I just
All right.
wanted to know, having chose both of you chose those options, how you explained that part of the story. That's all. I just wanted to know. Steve, do
Well,
you have an answer to that? It's okay if you don't.
No, I mean, like I said, dude, like I think that's the nearest option to what I would consider. I'm not fully convinced of any of those three, but I think that one is, in my mind, the most plausible.
Of course.
Okay.
And also, I'm gonna go with what Steve said earlier. You want me to believe those claims? We're in hospitals, we're in hallways. Show me the security footage. The lack of security
Sure.
footage is very suspicious.
That's fair.
I
That's fair.
don't know what motivations these people have to say these things, but if you don't have like security footage
Mhm.
or like give me a story of why there isn't security footage. Don't tell me that that's just the same 2 minutes each night this camera goes out because for fun, it doesn't work that way. It's the real
Okay,
world.
so I'm going to go ahead and say that my personal opinion is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of column C. I think that
And you
there
called me a
was,
cop out. You called
hold
me a
on,
cop out. What the
I'll
fuck is
explain.
happening?
I think there was a paranormal thing going on. I do. I
Mhm.
think that the mom was crazy and she was not responding to it the way that an uncrazy person might. Okay. And I think that the city of Gary, Indiana decided we're not going to release the footage, but we're also not going to deny it. We're just going to let it slide. And then people are going to be making them Google searches. No, I mean, I'm a little jokey about the third part, but that is the only way to explain the footage not being available, except that the hospital didn't want it released because they were afraid that if it was released, they would be blamed for whatever's in the footage, right? That might be what happened because it's like if the kid flies up and hits the wall, someone's still responsible for the kid getting hurt. And maybe the hospital was like, well, it's in our hospital. So like I don't know. I can't You're right. I can't explain that except to say that they don't have to release that footage. But I also can't explain a kid flying up into the air and hitting the wall and medical professionals not just saying, no, that didn't happen, but instead saying, yes, it did. So I think there was a genuine paranormal event going on. And I think this mom was ill equipped to deal with it and may have been abusive to her children at the same time. I know that's a cop out, but if I had to pick one, it would be the first one. I think there was something genuine going on. I don't know about all the surrounding events or whether or not the Gary state government decided to play a little game here. I don't know. But all I know is something genuine had to have happened for this story to make sense, in my opinion. Otherwise, I don't get it. I don't get how you get this many. The Ammons didn't make any money off of this, as far as I'm aware. I mean, they did make a movie. For those of you who don't know,
Oh, there's a movie.
there's a movie directed by Lee Daniels, and it's on Netflix. It's called The Deliverance. And I mean, they might have got paid for that. I actually don't know. So if you want to say that that's what it was all about, fine. I don't know. But all I know is we don't like hear a lot from them. We just heard the story and then they kind of went away. And why would she not reveal her kids' names? I mean, a lot of times we hear the kids' names. She doesn't want to reveal it. To me, it seems like she's concerned about the kids. So I think there's something genuine here. And if there's other stuff at play, that wouldn't surprise me because people are like that. But I just can't explain what's happening if it has no genuine aspect to it. I'm not just choosing that because it's my place on the podcast to do it. I really think there's got to be something real here. There's parts of it I don't believe. I don't really buy the cop stuff at his house. But how do you fake all of the evidence on the police officers' cameras and their recorders? So I believe that there was something going on in that house, and maybe it just made these people's psychological problems worse. So yeah, column A, column B. That's my option. You guys, you want to rip me a new one for that one, or like what? Because it's okay if you think that's stupid. Like you're saying, it's a cop out. That's fine.
No, I think we've each got our own valid reasons for picking one of the options.
I think so too.
Hmm.
I think so too. And you guys aren't wrong. Like you bring up very good points, Matthew.
Anything is possible, just not scientifically.
And I'm going to go ahead and be pretentious and say that there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in some guy's cubicle. So, but that that right there pretty much concludes discussion of the first episode here of the Night Vision podcast. And I want to thank you both for joining me. And I want to thank everyone on YouTube who has watched. I really appreciate it. And we're going to be coming out with another one soon. Guys, What are your closing thoughts on this case? Steve, you go first.
Yes. Okay. So my closing thought is with Gary, Indiana at the time being the murder capital of the United States, I want to know how many of those murders were caused by mixing bleach and ammonia while cleaning.
That's a very
That's
good
it.
point.
This has been great.
Matthew,
I've had a lot of fun.
thank you very much for joining. Matthew, what is your closing thoughts on the case?
On the case, I don't know what else I can say. Oh man, shit! I feel put on the spot. I know. I fucked it up. I didn't stick the
Like,
landing.
oh no, I have to say
It's
something on a podcast.
Final thoughts.
My final thought is 200 demons is a bit much. That's too many demons. Wait, actually, let's talk about this.
200.
Okay. So I don't know. Um, I don't know how much space a demon takes up, but like, do you think that you know, like, demons, that they're a bunch of scamps, aren't they? So you know how
Yeah.
like teenagers in the 50s would like just get into trouble by seeing how many of themselves they can cram into a phone booth. Do you think that's what was going on with these houses and these demons?
I mean, I think somebody, because I didn't read out the whole thing, but I think somebody did like a ritual in the house before they lived there. That's what I think.
No.
But yeah, maybe they shoved themselves into a clown car, Matthew. Maybe that's what happened, and that's why they're in the house. That's a great theory. I love that one. Well, that's all we have. That's all we have for you this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll be coming out with the next one soon. Until then, remember, look at the world through night vision.